Minute starts now.
A Democratic senator calls it an attempt at collusion. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Ron Wyden reacting to reports about Donald Trump Jr. meeting with a Russian lawyer during the campaign. Fox's Rachel Sutherland has the newest details live from Washington.
Dave, the New York Times reports that Donald Trump Jr. agreed to the meeting knowing that dirt on Hillary Clinton would be coming from the Russian government. The paper cites an email that came from Robert Goldstone, a British music publicist who helped set up the meeting in June of 2016. The younger Trump's newly hired lawyer says the story is much ado about nothing, and his client had no knowledge as to what specific information, if any, would be discussed. The White House has said the president did not know about the meeting. Dave.
Rachel, President Trump has tweeted a shot at Senate Democrats this morning, writing they can't win, so all they do is slow down and obstruct.
Only 50 Trump nominees have been confirmed out of 242 nominations as of June 30th this year, compared to 186 confirmations out of 336 nominations at this same point under the Obama administration in 2009. But Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the administration has only itself to blame, telling the AP, quote, "No administration in recent memory has been slower in sending nominees to the Senate."
Fox's Griff Jenkins. What went wrong at 20,000 feet? The Marines aren't saying yet. The morning after a military plane slammed into a Mississippi soybean field in a fiery crash, killing at least 16 people.
The Marine aircraft was a KC-130. The plane has multiple uses in the military, such as carrying cargo and troops or for in-flight refueling operations. The FBI is also on the scene as authorities continue to search over a debris field that stretched for miles.
Fox's Kelly Wright. The U.S. has passed another missile defense test. The THAAD system shot down its target off the coast of Hawaii overnight. Coffee drinkers live longer. That's what two new studies conclude. Researchers looked at the health histories of thousands of people, finding those who drank coffee were at less risk of disease. Fox News, fair and balanced.
As a small business owner, you make every dollar count. So what could you do with $10? Go to Vistaprint.com today and you'll get 500 high-quality custom business cards for only $9.99. That's less than 2 cents per card. And at Vistaprint, your satisfaction is absolutely guaranteed. So it's never been easier to turn 500 strangers into connections. Just visit Vistaprint.com and use promo code 4242 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 4242.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. Every day people ask me, can I still take advantage of today's low rates? Is it still a good time to refinance? The answer is yes. Now's a great time to call Quicken Loans at 800-QUICKEN. The rate today on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.875%, APR 4.12%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to QuickenLoans.com. That's 800-QUICKEN.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
When asked to describe how they felt after viewing those now infamous photos of Governor Christie on a state beach that was closed to the public during the government shutdown, 2/3 of Jersey residents in a new Monmouth poll had nothing nice to say. The top responses: disgusted, anger, disbelief.
And words that we can't repeat on the radio.
Poll director Patrick Murray says the governor's approval rating, 15%, is the lowest he's ever seen for a New Jersey governor. On the same day, Chris Christie made comments referring to Hillary Clinton as a criminal, saying he was glad she wasn't in the White House. Donald Trump Jr. acknowledges he met with a Russian lawyer during last year's presidential campaign, hoping to get info on Clinton. She was thought to have been rescued, pulled out of a lake in Dennis Township last week. But 3 days after that, a 4-year-old girl dies. The lake was unguarded. Kaylin Pahulik had been swimming with a group of children, but did not follow them out of the water. I'm Patrick Lavery, and this is the Town Square News Network.
You'll be chewing your way through the air today with all the humidity, and our heat is building as well. High temperatures today near 90 degrees. It'll be cooler at the shore in the lower to mid-80s today. Partly sunny with a few showers and maybe a thunderstorm. Chance for a shower tonight with partly cloudy skies. It is going to be quite uncomfortable as lows only fall to the lower to mid-70s. Sunny clouds tomorrow, maybe a stray storm. Highs around 90, and Thursday gets even hotter, lower to mid-90s. The heat index feels like temperature over 100 on Thursday. Some rain moving in late day. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. Chuck Malamut is here. He is the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. You can reach Chuck and his team at 609-383-2010. The following program is presented by Chuck from Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck and not necessarily those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. The presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. A lot to talk about with Chuck Malamut. And in the last 10 minutes of the hour, we have a advanced wine expert that's going to be joining the program with an interesting topic. And then we have Dr. Bob in the 9 o'clock hour. Top of the morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Harry.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing A-OK. How are you?
Good.
You, Kirk,
we had a great hour.
Certainly went at it pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Were you surprised that New Jersey ranks 50th in terms of fiscal matters in the entire country?
No, I wasn't
not. Either.
I kind of...
I thought we might get 49th.
You knew you were at the bottom 5. There's no doubt about it. I was kind of the mindset that...
maybe Illinois could have been last.
Illinois was going to be last, but it's certainly, fighting for that last spot is...
It's embarrassing.
Nothing to be proud of, for sure. I mean, and on the way in, I'm thinking, well, what do you do? How do you overcome and get out of that 50th spot? And unfortunately, the state's run by politicians and not by business people. And
they want to know, I mean, if you think about it, you could put this into your lane and just dealing with any new client or current client or whatever, prospective client that you would sit down with and say, how much cash do you have on hand? How much do you have to pay short-term obligations? How are you doing to get through the current year? How are you doing with long-term planning? I mean, these are really all the basic questions that an individual should be able to face and have good answers for. It's just a bigger entity that's being judged, but the questions are very analogous to everybody that's listening right now.
Harry, if you make $1, you can't spend $1.50. I hate to make it sound that simplistic.
But yes, you can when you have $1 and you can borrow 50 cents. And that's how we have been running the state.
I mean, when you look at the state GOs, for instance, and the way they're rated, the only reason that you would buy as a New Jersey state resident, buying, there is some very, very good paper. I don't want to just throw it out there, Harry, and say that all New Jersey bonds you should stay away from. That's not the case. But when you're sort of at a toss-up between buying Jersey and buying out-of-state, you have to remember that if you buy an out-of-state municipal bond, you are in fact responsible for any taxes that are generated from the income that you earn on out-of-state municipals back to the state of New Jersey. So being that the bracket that we're in right now, oftentimes you sort of are guided back to buying Jersey, and then sometimes you just have to you have to obviously at any time be very, very careful, what you're buying and understand why you're buying it. It's like anything else. If, you're just not going to go in blindly and buy something, you need to understand. You sort of need to look under the hood, if you know what I mean.
Yes, sir. Market update, Chuck.
So, Harry, last week we didn't get much accomplished. You think about it. The Dow Jones was up 0.4%. So year to date, going into yesterday, we're up 9.8%. The S&P last week is up fractional 0.1%. So year to date, we're up 9.5%. But still the clear winner, even with a fair amount of capital moving out of technology. The NASDAQ was up 0.2%. Year to date's up 15%. So, investors right now, Harry, look, we're in the dog days of summer. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of confusion. When you think about it, what have we accomplished over the last couple months? Not only here domestically, but also internationally as well. We've done a fair amount of like churning, just sort of back and forth. While we've seen some changes with leadership, sort of underneath all that churn. So the other thing that happened was, as last week we had a fairly large increase in interest rates. So government bond yields, ended up obviously hurting all sorts of bonds, whether they're governments, corporates, or municipals, and the fact that yes, bond prices were down, which pushed pushed bond yields higher. And we're seeing again this movement where a fair amount of capital is now moving into the financial sector, and we kind of talked about that as we got up into the earnings seasons. And by the way, not to get off course, but PepsiCo was the first to come. They came this morning, second quarter, and they beat.
Good.
Which is
top line and bottom line.
I know for sure bottom line. I did not grab the number on the top end. So, you think about it, while we had this movement out of tech stocks over the last couple weeks, I don't think you just, arbitrarily abandon that sector, because think about how important technology is for all of us and what we do on a day-to-day basis and how companies, run their companies. Think about the proficiencies of technology where we were just even 3 to 5 years ago. We had the weak oil. Oil had some fairly significant rally back, Harry, from where we hit the bottom a couple of weeks ago, but we're still lower than where we were some time ago, and those lower oil prices have in fact hurt energy companies, but they've helped other companies in the cost of doing business. And again, that defensive sector, we're starting to see, again, some flows back into healthcare. So it's all, Harry, we're all focused now on second quarter. And we think that improving corporate earnings are going to be one of the main ingredients to push this market, higher. Because, again, you got the pundits saying, okay, we're at the end of the rope, it's over, sell everything, get out now. And then you have, every day it seems as if the market, and as I mentioned, goes through this churn. We haven't gotten much of anything accomplished, but at the end of the day, you're not taking a beating every day with stock prices going lower. So if the economy continues to grow and the prospects are we think that's going to happen, earnings should also increase. Which is going to help the equity markets.
So if the prospect is that we're going to continue to grow, then, and I know this isn't your advice here, but I'm just going to pose the question, why would people be telling people to cut and run? Sounds like bad advice.
There's Harry, I guess.
Different opinions?
Yeah. I
on
mean,
the same topic?
There's all kinds of different ice cream, too. You think about it. The glass is half full, the glass is half empty. The market is moving higher, the market's moving lower, and think about it in very simplistic terms. For an equity trade to get accomplished, you have to match a buyer and a seller. So that means that some person, institution, hedge fund, somebody is looking to buy a position. Conversely, someone on the other side is looking to sell it. So somewhere in the middle, the two shall meet, and ultimately a trade gets accomplished.
Brief time out. We're going to be right back. Chuck Malamut is here, our official, make him your official financial advisor. He is the longtime 26-plus year official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, the Hurley in the Morning charities. And you can reach Chuck and his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office at 609-383-2010. We'll be right back with Chuck. Chuck is going to talk about the monthly jobs report, the status of the global economy, financial excesses within the economy, political update, some uncertainty, and other geopolitical risks, second quarter corporate earnings, leadership changes in the U.S. equity market. If we do our job, Chuck will educate on all of these items in the next two segments straight ahead. This portion of our program also brought to us by cosmetic and restorative dentist Dr. Alan Chenman, who practices the full scope of general, cosmetic, and implant dentistry, along with Dr. Henry Salama, who in terms of implant dentistry is one of the finest in the world. I challenge you to take me up on that statement and go Google or news search, however you news search Dr. Henry Salama. He is fantastic. And the two of them work so well together. Dr. Salama would put the implant in, and then Dr. Chenman would take you from there in terms of impressions and ultimately putting the new tooth into the implant. They do great work. And Dr. Chenman's expertise ranges from porcelain veneers to dental implants to crowns, bridges, inlays, onlays. Dr. Chenman, simply put, can correct the wide variety of the permanent cosmetic dental problems, and he can literally redesign your smile. Check out his photo gallery of before and after cases. It's truly amazing at smilecenternj.com. Dr. Chenman is conveniently located at 1999 New Road, Suite D in Linwood. The number to call, most likely Shannon would pick up, 609-601-2199. That's 609-601-2199. And please tell Dr. Chenman that I, Harry Hurley in the Morning, sent you. Back with Chuck in 2 minutes. Paul D'Amato.
Harry Hurley.
Paul, I know our listeners want to know what's new with the D'Amato Law Firm.
Things are great, Harry. We are so privileged to represent our clients whose lives have been turned upside down because they were involved in a serious accident. We meet on a regular basis. We copy our clients on all our correspondence so they always know what's going on with their case. We try to treat them like family. We have Alexa here, my daughter. I'm so happy that she's here. We have Steve Van Natten and Casey Gifford. We're a great legal team.
They're the D'Amato Law Firm for all of your personal injury legal needs. Turn to the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program for more than a quarter of a century. The D'Amato Law Firm in Egg Harbor Township, 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. Tell Paul, Alexa, Sandy, the entire team that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
Worry less with Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty Mutual saved me almost $800 when I switched my home and auto insurance.
Liberty did what?
Yeah, I got the perfect coverage for us, and I didn't have to worry about skimping on Emma's party.
Oh, well, that explains the
party! Best birthday ever!
Visit us online to get a quote. You can leave worry behind when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance. Based on a recent countrywide survey of new customers, coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company.
When you're hiring for a growing business, you don't need lots of candidates. You need the right candidates. You need Indeed.com. With an algorithm that positions your job post where quality candidates are and screener questions that help you zero in on the best talent. Indeed.com, the site proven through an independent study to deliver 5 times more hires than any other. New users claim your $50 credit for a sponsored job at Indeed.com/credit. Indeed, the world's #1 job site. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Hi, remember this is Tony Orlando with Hurley in the Morning. Keep listening.
One tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree.
Hurley in the Morning.
18 minutes past the hour. I am Hurley in the Morning. He is Chuck Malamut. Make him your, as I have made him my, official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. 609-383-2010 is the number to reach Chuck and the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. Are we on to monthly jobs report?
Yeah, real quick. Torpedo came in with a text. Thank you very much. Pepsi beat on the top and the bottom line.
There you go.
So
the Malamut Group always delivers.
So
that's very good because, for a while we were talking about companies that were strategically able to meet budgets by both a certain amount of revenue but also a certain amount of cuts. So hitting both top line and bottom line makes them even stronger.
It does. No one company makes a market. And I think the key to all this is as we get into the big financials, and they're going to report any day now. That's going to be, I think, a really good indication of what happened in Q2. So I'm sorry, Harry. What did you want to chat about next?
To the monthly jobs report.
I am so extremely disappointed in you, the humble servant.
You mean that I didn't bring up the 222,000 jobs?
Actually,
how good that
well,
was?
no, I was kind of waiting with bated breath all day Friday. No call, no show, no text, no email.
It would make me absent without leave. AWOL.
I guess you were just busy, getting ready for your weekend. But in spite of all that, the June jobs report came in.
We did report it on the program.
Well, but you could have reached out to your friends.
I
but
should.
In any case,
I'll do better next time.
We did show some good growth. The higher than expected 220,000 jobs, I think took everybody by surprise, is obviously a good sign. Wage growth. We always talked about, how important it is that wage growth is part of the equation. Mm-hmm. It's still somewhat disappointing. The annualized growth rate is now sitting at about 2.5%. When you look at the June jobs report, Harry, a couple things happened. Non-farm payroll was stronger than expected. Unemployment rate actually ticked up to 4.4%. But that increase, I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that the participation rate increased. So when was the last time we actually talked about that the participation rate was moving onward and upward? So having said all that, and the prior 2 months were revised higher as well. So Americans, generally speaking, right now are very, very positive about the job market. We continue to see a labor market with not a lot of slack, and even though the wage growth remains weak year over year, we think that the investors are going to see some upward pressure on wages in the coming quarters, and that's that generally speaking is all pretty good news. So again, I'll give you a pass. But I do expect to hear from you.
You would be proud of your little brother.
August,
I will
beginning
call
of
you
August.
next time, but you would be very proud of your little brother because I did report very, very well on it in real time when it was just announced in the 9 o'clock hour. Usually we get that right around 9. I open up with Gary, and boom, we go with that big. You didn't mention, so I'm not going to give you demerits for not mentioning that the unemployment rate remains steady.
Well, it actually moved higher. It's 4.
I thought.
No, it's 4.4.
You did say that.
It's 4. Yeah, it's 4.4.
I thought it stayed at 4.3.
No, and as I mentioned, it's
You did.
because the participation rate is
Got
now
it.
higher, and that's obviously all good signs with respect to the job market.
It's interesting. That's why your show is very important, Chuck, because just pointing out numbers sometimes doesn't tell the whole story. We had a horrible 8 years in the employment market where people were giving up, just completely giving up. That was favorably impacting the unemployment rate because if you're not looking and they remove you from consideration, then the unemployment rate kept going down. But that was a confusing number because it didn't really lend for a strong economy or a strong job market economy, but yet the rate kept going down. So that can show you that a low unemployment rate when there's not a healthy employment total is deceiving.
Yeah, it's basically basic math. Numerator divided by denominator.
And here hundreds of thousands of jobs were created, and actually the unemployment rate goes up because more people are trying to get a job.
Exactly. And
So
that's actually I know that I can't remember if you talked about it in 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock hour about those that are just prefer not to work and sit on the couch and don't want to get ahead in life. But I mean, that's a story, for another day. So as I mentioned, I think the forecast area was 174,000 maybe was the number, and it comes in at 220. So I think it took everybody by surprise. And Friday turned into a decent day in the market. Yesterday was sort of a throwaway day; didn't get much of accomplished of anything. And today looks like it's be rather muted. But think about it. We are middle of July, and we're sitting here waiting. I think you're going to get some upward movement if earnings in fact come the way we expect.
I like what you're saying, and I like the early sign with the one that did report Pepsi being very, very good, both top and bottom line. Chuck, how about how the global economy is faring? What's the status there?
So, the Goldilocks scenario that we oftentimes talk about, low inflation, slow growth, that should continue to allow, that current long-term expansion that's out there to continue, even as the growth rate remains slower than average expansion. So we think global growth will continue to sort of grind higher. But again, you're not at the point where you're firing on all cylinders and 7%. I think it's obviously more muted, but 6-9 months ago we weren't even talking about global growth. It was all concentrated here, in the U.S.
Yeah.
So that's so again, it's all pointing towards, in spite of everything that you see on television and read in the media, or watch on the internet, or view on your phone.
Yeah.
Things are actually pretty good here.
Here's what I'm thinking. This is a little maybe outside the box, but I think in a way it's been good that the media has had a disconnect and they're not intellectually curious anymore. They don't really report on. I'm not saying that, for example, Neil Cavuto and Fox Business or some of the other business networks do, but the national media at large and the cable news network media and the print media at large, they're not really interested in reporting on the important issues anymore. And so maybe it's not a bad thing that the American people and our economy and our job creators and the free market in our country is sort of in an HOV lane without the impediment of a media. I know the ticker is all day long torturing everybody, but I think their dereliction in covering the actual news that's happening has helped our economy.
You're right, Harry. What's interesting when
I never thought about that before.
When we chat with our clients, the great majority of them have basically moved on. They don't really pay much attention to the news flash of the day.
Yeah.
They're more focused on either if they're in retirement, how they're going to spend their time in retirement, if they're working towards retirement, how they're going to achieve their goals, and a few of them, do pay a lot of attention to this and get. I don't want to say. I guess the best word is distracted.
Yeah.
And they kind of take their eye off the ball when they really should be paying more attention to their financial affairs and less attention to a lot of the rhetoric that you continue to see on a day-to-day basis.
My feeling about what they've done is sort of the equivalent of if somebody sounded the fire alarm and started screaming "holy heck" and woke everybody up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you come running up, you're out of breath because you think your house is on fire and you're looking for the smoke, and and all of a sudden somebody tells you they're punking you out, they're just playing a goof on you. Then they do it again, and you got to get up again because it could be on fire, it could be a problem. By the time they keep doing it, soon you just sleep through
stop.
it.
You're exhausted from the whole process.
You just sleep through it.
Exactly.
You don't take it serious. Before the bottom of the hour break, we have 2 minutes. Are there financial excesses within our economy?
Yeah. So, Harry, when you look at it, every economic expansion that we live through, typically produces some sort of excesses that you need to be aware of. And there's 6 that we need to really sort of focus on here. Think about the housing market. Other than what's here, if you get to like in Florida and California, particularly like San Francisco, these incredibly high house prices, high auto debt levels, high commercial real estate prices, too much corporate debt, high, very, very excessive student loans, and the real unit labor costs. I mean, think about that, and that's something that we're living through here every day. So you need to, I think you need to be a little bit concerned about that.
When things are good, people don't necessarily focus on that. They're enjoying good times.
They are, and you just need
to let the good times roll.
I think you need to be cautious. And again, we always talk about it. You need to sleep with one eye open. That's not the. I don't want to throw caution to the wind, certainly, but I think it's important that your listeners clearly understand, the high auto debt levels. And I think Charles Kane can kind of talk about that.
Chuck, doesn't every good operator, whether it's somebody in business, it could be a farmer, they have a great year, they put some stuff aside because you have to be able to endure a lean year.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's smart. It's smart to pay attention, and not live beyond your means, because if we have, and we always, these are cyclical events, if we have a downturn, you can't count on the fact that you'll be able to sustain the spending, the debt that you've accumulated. Remember, before the real estate burst, Chuck, a lot of people were floating on their homes with equity loans.
Yes, exactly, the piggy bank.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's take our halftime break. We're going to come right back. If there's any more on that, the time will be Chuck's. He's also going to talk about the politics, geopolitical issues. Are there uncertainties, second quarter corporate earnings, leadership changes in the U.S. equity market, anything else that Chuck would like to share? Chuck will be with us for another 15 minutes. Then we'll break, and then we'll be joined at 10 minutes before the top of the hour by a sommelier by the name of Brian. He is advanced in his knowledge and very, very, obviously very, very good, Brian Phillips. And we have a wonderful topic from 8:50 until 9 o'clock. And then Dr. Bob Zlotnick. And as I've been teasing throughout the morning without saying who is getting it this time, and I mean that in a good way, we will be presenting a surprise $1,000 grant, which your generosity has made possible for us to be able to do this, to the tune this year alone of tens of thousands of dollars. Chuck can back me up because he sees each and every deposit and he sees each and every grant that we write. We trust him that much. I would tell him he could keep this check in his pocket. He's that trustworthy. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Don't go away. Chuck Malamut, All About Your Financial Matters, continues. This is Hurley in the Morning on WPG.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 is South Jersey's dependable station for news, traffic, and weather for your ride home. Listen weekdays from 3 to 6 as Sean Hannity debates the hot topics of the day. The Town Square News Network keeps you informed with South Jersey news, meteorologist Dan Zero's forecast 4 times an hour, and South Jersey traffic updates to get you home faster. For your ride home, make the switch to WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
We treat people well. Shore Physicians Group. Shore Physicians Group is proud to include rheumatology among its medical specialties, allowing you to seek diagnosis and treatment for arthritis and other disease that can affect your joints, muscles, and bones. Shore Physicians Group rheumatologists Dr. Linda Brecker and Anna Serlusu are board certified in internal medicine and rheumatology. Together, these expert practitioners bring fellowship training and a highly personalized approach to the people they care for. Shore Physicians Group is accepting new patients at its Summers Point and Marmore offices. Most insurance plans are accepted. For a rheumatology appointment, call 609-365-6200 or visit shorephysiciansgroup.com. That's 609-365-6200 or shorephysiciansgroup.com. Shore Physicians Group, treating people well.
96 elephants are killed every day in Africa for their ivory. That's 35,000 a year. With your support, more poachers can be caught. With your voice, we can inspire more countries to ban ivory sales and reduce demand. Go to 96elephants.org and join more than 1 million people dedicated to saving Africa's elephants. Protect their home. Take action at 96elephants.org.
Life. It's made up of the simple day-to-day moments that keep us all running on full of joy, passion, and restlessness. It's singing full on to your car radio with the windows wide open. It's a whole bunch of early morning rush hours and a few late night runs for Rocky Road. It's full of pit stops and drive-thrus. It's life, and we live it between fill-ups at Valero. Valero top-tier certified quality fuel keeps your engine running cleaner, better, and longer. Find a station near you at ValeroCleanGas.com.
Hi, it's Brian Kilmeade. Join me next at 10, then Sean Hannity at 3. Now back to Harry Hurley on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
Chuck Malamut, he's giving it to me during the break, kids. He's tough. He's a tough boss. He's a tough friend. He's a tough brother. Chuck, we were talking about the...
Let's talk about your favorite topic.
We're going to talk about politics?
Politics, yes.
Beautiful.
So,
from the financial standpoint.
So think about this. I mean, Congress, it's amazing they're coming back to work. What did I hear? They work 31 more days?
For the whole year. You heard that from me.
Between now and the end of the year, right?
Yeah, it's less now.
Okay, so
now it's in the 20s. Wouldn't that be great? So, half the year is left. But I did do a disclaimer, though, in fairness. That's days in session. Right. And you certainly, I mean, if you're you have to compartmentalize and say, a guy like Frank Lobiando, this guy goes 7 days a week for the past 22 years. He doesn't stop. And if they're in session, for him, he'd rather be in the district because that's the kind of person that he is. So I do say that, and it's a fair comment, but they also do constituent service and a lot of things when they're not in session.
So think about it. They're focusing on health care. And you continue to hear, the back and forth, and certainly the outcome of healthcare is going to influence, tax reform. That those discussions will obviously take place after they work through healthcare.
And since we're talking geopolitical, let me just put this out there, Chuck, for your comment. Then you go back to your important, focus stats on all this. We're not having, as a country, an honest conversation about this. The politicians are totally politicizing it. Don't you think it would be important to tell the American people that the current system is collapsing, that about 2/3 of the state has one insurance option and some zero, and that this is unsustainable, but instead they're getting away with this game of kabuki, and it's so insulting.
I heard you and Kirk chat about that this morning, and I think Kirk's comment was, maybe you said it, the 2008.
If it was brilliant, I said it.
Okay, well, maybe Kirk said it too.
Okay.
2008, that everything was, people weren't dying on the streets.
No.
But now they will. So, but here's what happens if this does not go well, Harry. I mean, and I think you'll be the first to actually say this, that Republicans they're really behind schedule right now.
I've been saying it. And I said it this morning.
And
they're in trouble.
If they don't make the necessary progress, the prospects for the 2018 midterm elections are certainly going to be very, very questionable.
Democrats who are defending more seats in the Senate could win the Senate, and they could also win the House. That's what could happen in the midterm election. Look, when you run, and I know we don't talk politics on your show, this is talking issues. When you run on that you will repeal and replace Obamacare because it is terminally ill, and that you will lower taxes for all Americans, and now we're 6 months into this, and they haven't done either. There is a huge price to pay at the ballot box when you don't keep your word to the American people.
You're absolutely correct on that. I wholeheartedly agree. And the markets could take their cue from this. If you think about it, if we remain in a stalemate and do not get anything accomplished, then I think over time, that will set into what we do.
Yeah. Well, here's a fun question for you.
Day.
Here's a fun question for you, because you have some at Morgan Stanley. You have some of the finest analysts on the planet, not just in the country, in the world, and they all wanted Hillary to become president. All your best brains. I think I launched Siri by what I just said.
No,
okay,
it's something different.
It sounded like Siri launched. They all wanted Hillary to win. Somehow markets decided Hillary was going to be great for the economy. Well, she didn't win, and the economy took off like a rocket ship when it went exactly the opposite of what they wanted, which I kept saying all along, we're going to do so much better when President Trump is president than we would have if the other had happened. I can't now. I'm going to throw this at you. I can't imagine that the same people who wanted Hillary to win would want Democrats to win the House or the Senate in the midterm elections. Am I correct?
I think you're correct in that assessment. Yeah.
So are they living under the motto, I'm psychotic and so am I? Because where does any of that make any sense?
Oftentimes, Harry, in this world, a lot of things that
why I love this question?
A lot of things that we watch and we see and we participate in do not make sense. And I think this is one of them right now.
I think because we looked at what happened when the change was made, and it was beautiful. But if you don't do what you say you're going to do, certainly the media that wants to bring about change for the other side they're going to pound you every day through the midterm election, because then they want that to be the prelude to replacing the president 2 years after that. It's all part of a plan.
But here's what does make sense. I'm going to shift back here to corporate earnings.
Yeah.
The expectation is that, year over year for the second quarter on a comparative basis, we're expecting a growth rate of 8%. And 11% for the full year. So you think about that. Earnings per share growth.
By the way, nothing wrong with that, Chuck.
No, earnings per share growth rate could hit, actually 18%, Harry, on a 4-quarter moving average later this year. And we do think we'll have some moderation as we get into 2018. But again, if you're buying an equity based on a price-earnings ratio, and your earnings continue to improve, that old calculation, numerator, denominator, and your P/E ratio goes down, then ultimately, because you have higher earnings, then chances are you're more inclined to want to buy that particular equity. So it all makes sense in spite of everything that you watch and everything that you read. Now, what is happening in the equity markets in particular, we're seeing, some leadership changes. As you think about this, you've had the 10 largest S&P 100 stocks. Right now is 19% lower than the long-term average of 20%, and significantly below the 27% peak represented in 1999. So you're seeing, more diversification, more diversion, so to speak. Healthcare is the leading sector. Technology is in second. Energy has given up, Harry, all the gains in 2016 and sits, obviously relatively low versus the rest of the broader market. But what we're seeing here, again, we're somewhat range bound. More to the upside, if anything else. We are seeing an improving economic growth. We're seeing a Fed that continues to be more hawkish, and as a result of that, financials, industrials, and some healthcare areas are going to take we think the leadership away from utilities, consumer staples, and then the big question is technology, while it has gotten beaten up just a little bit, we still think at this point in time that sector does still look attractive. So again, you do see these rotations, typically when you get into a long-term bull market. So don't be at all surprised if these rotations continue. But I think, again, Harry, all bets are off as we get into earnings, because you can get a surprise to the upside and get a surprise to the downside. Just the other day, I'm trying to recall, I think there was an automotive parts retailer that absolutely got punished. It was down 20%.
Wow.
They came with a pre-announcement prior to earnings, and it took the whole sector down at the same time. Because, again, what's the old adage? Shoot now, ask questions later. And sometimes that happens, in the equity markets.
Chuck, in terms of leadership changes, does that how big a role does that play if the markets are stable? The leader, I'm not being naive about it, but is it a big deal?
Well, Harry, I think it's like anything else, and we oftentimes talk about this. If you're on a boat and everybody goes to the left side of the boat, what happens to the boat? And again, this leadership change. What will happen is that you'll see, flow of funds out of one particular sector into another. And you think about, financials over the last decade did not participate in the appreciation of the markets because of a lot of the regs that were out there. So if you invested your money, went away, and came back, you absolutely made no progress. But you think about, while that was happening in 2007, 2008, financials were basically the whipping boy of the market, down like 30, 40, 50, even 60% in some cases. So they've recovered all of that, and now it looks like we're trending upward. And, financials obviously need to participate in a successful upward market. So I think that's obviously all good signs on a go-forward basis.
2-minute drill, and it is a financial matter. It's only part of it, though, because the Senate would still have to take action, not the New Jersey Senate, but the United States Senate. Governor Christie sent me a note about 10 minutes ago. Chuck was deep in the reporting that he was doing, so I didn't want to interrupt his train of thought to get this in, but we have about maybe 2 quick minutes here if Chuck will stay for a little bit of overtime. Governor Christie wrote me that and released the following statement, that the Congressional House DOT appropriations bill will, if the Senate will act in kind, that the House DOT bill allocates $900 million in federal funding for the beginning of the Gateway project here in New Jersey. If $900 million flows in, I understand that a lot of people, this is the stuff they kind of hate, pork and pork spending and all this different stuff, but we're paying our taxes anyhow. So $900 million coming for the beginning of the Gateway project, I'm not going to complain about that.
Well, Harry, I think what did I'm trying to phrase, commuter hell this week is starting up in the city as a result of all the work that needs to be accomplished. I think it was at Penn Station, if my memory serves me correctly. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
we need
the infrastructure. Look, the infrastructure is beyond being old, and unfortunately, there's so many people that have to depend on it. Actually, I was chatting with a client just the other day. Said, why do you they commute to the city, and they said, why do you like living where you live? And I said, quite frankly, my mindset is I don't want to spend an hour in my lifetime commuting to New York City.
Chuck, before we go, and I don't float rumors on this program, but I'm going to respond to questions. I got hit with so many Facebook instant messages, text messages, emails, because there is a wild rumor at this point that JPM, Chase, is going to purchase Revel, which would, if the price I'm even hearing is correct, then Glenn Straub would more than double his purchase price. I cannot confirm it, and all I've written everybody, and I will speak it here on the program, and I think it's especially important to mention it during Chuck's financial program, is that it's a rumor at this point. I don't have any confirmation on that. But, Chuck, it's a widespread rumor.
I think, Harry, it's best that I don't comment on that.
Yeah, but I'm putting it out there just because so many listeners want to know if it happened, and I'm doing exactly what I've done in writing to everyone, is to say the responsible thing. It's only a rumor at this point. Even if 2 hours from now there was an official announcement, it's only a rumor, and you know how rumors get spread. One person says it, they start calling everybody, and with the social media being the way that it is, these kinds of things can spread like wildfire. Chuck?
Absolutely. Harry, thanks for having me.
Great to be with you.
See you next week.
We look forward to it. When we come back, we have a very, very talented – when you're an advanced wine expert, you are a sommelier. And Chuck knows that term from his high-level casino hotel days. Brian is joining us next. Top wine trends and summer pairings next on Hurley in the Morning. And then Dr. Bob is making a house call. It's Hurley in the Morning.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
It's great to see our kids having fun on a playground in the summer, but each year more than 200,000 kids are treated in ERs for playground-related injuries. You can make the playground safe for your kids by checking equipment and teaching your kids how to play safely. The surface of the playground should be soft enough to cushion a child's fall. Look for loose hooks, bolts, or even rough edges that could be hazardous to your kids. Also, pay special attention to metal slides, handrails, and steps that can become very hot during these summer days. And make sure your kids wear clothes that don't have drawstrings or cords that could become a choking hazard if they get caught on equipment. Kids can still get injured if they don't follow basic guidelines, so be sure to talk to them about appropriate playground behavior. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
The ocean at 101 Boardwalk, where every day offers a beautiful view.
Is your dream to retire by the sea? Do you need assisted living? Then your dream can come true at Spring Oak of Atlantic City. Stop in and take a look at beautiful apartments and gorgeous views at 101 Boardwalk. Spring Oak is a truly affordable option to regular assisted living, providing residents with a true home-like environment, promoting independence and choice while allowing better access to personal care and health maintenance services. Staff is on duty 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week to provide personal assistance with medications and a full array of activities. For more information, call 609-348-1200, extension 13, or go to springoak.net.
The ocean at 101 Boardwalk, where every day offers a beautiful view.
Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
All right, I want to make a prediction. Brian's been doing a number of interviews today, and he will do many more throughout the day. Has any broadcaster yet had the guts to call him anything other than a advanced wine expert because they run fearful of the word sommelier? I know. I said it. I dared to say it. And let me tell you a little bit about Brian. He is very, very credentialed, awesome at what he does, a lot of passion for what he does. And when you are at the level that Brian is, not just sommelier but advanced sommelier, that's really just the top of the food chain in his business. He has a lot of experience, a lot of certifications. And to stay sharp, Brian continuously challenges himself in competitions, service competitions, hands-on competitions. And it's a real pleasure to welcome Brian Phillips to our program, Advanced Sommelier. Has anyone dared say that word this morning, Brian? Come on, fess up.
Not as of yet. You're the first, Harry. Thanks for using it. It's kind of an old world word, and you said it perfectly. It's becoming more well-known. Thank you.
And it looks like you would say like sommelier or sommelier. But anyhow, my old hotel background has served me well this morning. Brian, it is a pleasure to present you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. What are some of the recent trends that you are seeing when it comes to wine?
Right now, out of California and the New World, I think a lot of the wine producers are dialing it back a little bit in terms of achieving too much overripeness in wines. They're making wines very approachable, easy to drink on their own, but also still bold enough and having all the structure to pair very well with an assortment of different foods as well. So drinkable wines, I think, is really kind of the new direction.
Here is something, Brian, where I know people that either think they know or aren't quite sure. How do you choose the perfect wine to go with our meals?
There's a lot of complex answers, and some people can get a little too geeky when it comes to pairing suggestions. I like to leave it a little bit more open-ended and make it more of a discovery. But the general rule is a light-bodied wine with lighter dishes. So if you're having, let's say, white seafood, shellfish, you want a nice, crisp, clean, white varietal that will work with that. So you're looking at your Sauvignon Blancs, your Pinot Grigios, things that don't have a lot of oak on it. And then going up the ladder in terms of ripeness and body, your Chardonnays with some oak, that classic California oak Chardonnay with maybe lobster and some richer butter sauces. And then, of course, red meats, red wines is always a good starting point. But just being open-minded. There's, 2,500 different varietals out there to choose from. We always fall back on the big four of Cabernet, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Grigio. But there's so much more in the world of wine. However, that's always the good starting point, and then going from there.
We're visiting until the top of the hour with Brian Phillips, very talented advanced sommelier, and we're talking about trends until the top of the hour here with you on Hurley in the Morning. Dr. Bob Zlotnick in our 9 o'clock hour, and as I've been mentioning throughout the morning, we're going to be making a surprise Hurley in the Morning grant award, $1,000 grant from the Hurley in the Morning charity, and we're really excited about sharing that announcement coming up in just a little bit. This is also a lot of fun for folks, both guests and also for folks that are throwing a big event or a party at their home, whatever the occasion might be. Share some of your favorite pairings.
Yeah, for me, I really love things that kind of balance each other out or work against each other. It's called a contrasting pairing. And so I like spicy dishes with off-dry wines. I love going to Asian restaurants or hosting people at my house. I like a lot of spicy food, but at the same time, in order to consume a lot of spicy food, you need something to balance it out. So wine that has a little bit of residual sugar, or what they call an off-dry style of wine, like your Rieslings, maybe Chenin Blanc from the Loire Valley, like Vouvray. We have a great Sauvignon Blanc we're featuring in this year's Generous Pour lineup that has a little bit of residual sugar on it to bring out some of that richness of the fruit. That kind of moderates that heat. Those are always my favorite go-tos. Of course, Cabernet, where it has a lot of tannic grip, kind of cuts through the richness of a big, bold steak. Those are always go-to winners.
Brian, in terms of just some mechanics, give your listeners advice in terms of how to store the wines, at what angle, what temperature. Talk a little bit about that. Yeah, so there's some general rules. No light, that's a big one. You want a really dark space. Temperature is always really key. So you want to be optimally around, 50 to 55 degrees, and you can store your whites, reds, and even some of the higher-end champagnes at that temperature. And no vibration. So not a place where people are banging and opening the door a lot's key. Do you turn bottles? Yeah, laying them on their side is key. You want to have the wine in contact with the cork so it doesn't dry out and let air in, or what they call seepage, where the wine leaks out. Of course, nowadays, even some screw cap wines are capable of aging, and you can store those upright. In terms of, do most wines get better with age if you store them at the correct temperature and you do what you should do, keep them in the dark? Do most wines get better with age? Most wines do not get better with age. I think almost all wines can benefit from a little bit of resting. A lot of wines come from long distances. If it's a European wine, it might have just hit the shelf, so maybe letting it rest for a few months up to a year will benefit it. But really, that's about where most wine's going to be consumed at. There's your premium wines, and based upon the region it comes from, some of those can last, anywhere from 5 to 10 years all the way up to 50-plus years. Now, I have a favorite, really great contributor to our charity, a great friend, even more important than the money that he shares with us. He's just a great person, and he's in your business. I know this is like the Super Bowl for him. I didn't tell him in advance that you were coming on, Brian. So I hope that Sal Spina is listening right now, because this is like the Super Bowl for Sal, talking to an advanced sommelier like Brian Phillips. Tell us about the Generous Pour event, Brian. Yeah, so the Generous Pour event's featured at all our Capital Grille restaurants. It's an opportunity to have a personalized wine dinner experience. Most people, including myself, often go to a restaurant. We get that one bottle of wine we really want with our entrees, but it doesn't open us up to a lot of pairing opportunities or trying a lot of different wines. And so for $38, you can come in, try 7 different highly rated wines. Now, we tried hundreds of wines to get down to these 7 wines that all happen to be 90-plus rated, so it's really a great, stellar lineup. And the servers are trained very to the exact detail of what the nuances are of each wine, and specifically for every course on our menu. And they make some really great suggestions as to leading you along the way and making the specific pairings for your whole dinner. Of course, there's different routes you can go. If someone's kind of more in a hurry, they have a theater or some event to go to, we can line up white wines together, let you make the pick as to what you like the most. And then the standouts are what you get to go back to and drink more of as you like. Here's one that I thought was an interesting stat, Brian. 399 million total cases of wine were shipped last year. So that's up 3% from the recent past. There's 320 million Americans, so like 70 million or so more total cases of wine were shipped than there are people in our country. It's a big number is what I'm saying. I learned it from you. Yes. Yeah, it's a good thing to see for me, for sure. It helps keep me employed. But I think that's really one of the great trends we're seeing, is that America is really now the dominant market in consuming wine as a whole. And we are, not per volume per person, but as a whole as a country consuming more wine than France. That's huge. That's great to see. In our final minute, Brian, tell us about the 4 distinct categories and how you calculate the points for a wine rating. Yeah, so in terms of wine rating, the points, we really do have to kind of rely sometimes on the critics that are drinking wine every day to give us some advice. Because when you walk into a shop or retail store, there's a lot of options on the shelf. And so this is kind of an entry to give some people a jumping off point. But they're really rating it on the overall unique characteristics of that wine. Does it define itself from the rest? Well, at the same time, does it also varietally represent itself accurately? Is it a classic representation of the varietal and also the region in which it comes from? And then they're looking at the overall structure and components of flavor and aroma.
A wine that might be muted in aroma but taste really well on the palate might get some points for that, but maybe lose some points on the aroma. Because aroma and palate, they need to go hand in hand. Really, I think the most enjoyable part of a wine is how it smells.
Brian, I know you have to run, and so do we. For more information, go to the Capital Grill, E at the end of grill, thecapitalgrill.com. Brian, you don't disappoint. I knew you'd be great. Talk to you again.
Thank you, Harry. It's a pleasure. Cheers.
Thank you, sir. Be well. Fourth quarter begins right now. Dr. Bob making a house call.
104.1 WPGG Atlantic City, WSJO 104.9 HD2 Egg Harbor City. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
It's heartbreaking. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what President Trump just tweeted about yesterday's fiery military plane crash in Mississippi. He and the First Lady offering condolences. 16 U.S. service members were killed. Fox's Eben Brown has more live.
Dave, 16 people were on board a Marine KC-130 when it crashed north of Jackson, Mississippi. It is believed no one survived. Witnesses watched it make a corkscrew-like dive out of the sky. KC-130s are large tanker aircraft.